Good. Thank you for having me.
So good to see you. We did a short film together. I don't know if you remember. This was before I even started doing stand-up comedy. This was a while ago. We were in a comedic short film. You were the star of it. Do you even remember that?
Is it the one? I've probably done a few of them. Is it the one I'm thinking at the Irish bar? And
it was in Hollywood. It was at some kind of bar. It was for like a film festival.
Oh.
And yeah, you were, and that's when we first met. And I was an actor before I became a comedian. But I've been a huge fan of yours because I feel like you were one of the first people to start doing crowd work because you do this crowd work like in a different way with a flashlight, and it's almost like improv / crowd work that you had, right? Like you have the audience. How long have you been doing that?
You know, it's funny. So that bit started out. Well, let me tell you how it really started. It really started like a long time ago when I first started comedy. I used to do this little character. I'd go, "Hi, ladies, I'm Darren, but you could call me Darren."
Okay,
and I'd choose like a woman in the front row or something, and it was extra funny because back then I was young and I had a full head of red hair, and it's sort of like Jerry Lewis, when he goes like the nutty professor, like he's a nerd, but now he's cool. So that was kind of the vibe of it.
Got it. Right.
And what I would do is I'd memorize this long, I wrote this long thing where I'd be like, "I'm the one because I heard this guy actually say this. I just turned 21 and I was at a nightclub and I heard this guy as these ladies walk by. He's like, "Hey, lady," he goes, "I'm the one you've been looking for." And I was like, "Ooh, I like that." So I just like wrote it in my notebook and that became that character. And that's what I would say. I go, "I'm the one you've been looking for." And then I had this whole thing. I am, I is, I was, I were, I have, has, had, do, does, did, will, shall, should, would, me, my must, can, could, because baby, I am the one.
And you also do, right, like character, you do impressions, voices. You're really good at that as well, that you incorporate with it.
Right. And so I'd say, and I'd be like, "That's what I like about women, like I like mine." And then I would name a couple things, like shoes, no strings attached. And then I almost beatbox. Back then I didn't beatbox. And then I'd say, "I like my women like I like mine." And then I would just move on. And that's all I did. I would just move on. And then, and then one day I was on stage at the Punchline Comedy Club up in Northern California. And it was a Sunday and I kind of had, when you do a bit so much that you're a little tired of it a little bit.
Tired of it, sure, yeah.
Because your confidence, you're not nervous anymore and you're just like almost bored with it. I don't want to say bored with it, but you're
like, "I know this works." Like, yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, you don't want to, yeah. And so I like my women like I like my, I go, "You guys give me something." And then they yelled out like underwear or something. And back then I didn't, I used to use a sound cues. So there'd be somebody in the back of the room. So I go, whenever I go like this, press play. And when I go like
you had like the DJ do sound effects.
Yeah, like the DJ. So it'd be like da-da-da. And it'd be like, it'd be like, 50 Cent, "It's your birthday, go shorty," or whatever song was popular back then.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I got kind of a knack for this. And I just kept doing it. And then eventually I got rid of the music cues and I just started beatboxing. So whenever they say, I'd be like, which actually is way better because I can control it. It's cooler. It's like, I don't have to rely on a current song because back then I was always looking for like the perfect song.
Okay.
Because whatever a popular song, for some people, they were sick of it. Like if they're in their 20s, they're probably tired of it because they hear it all the time. And then older people probably didn't know it. And I don't know, that was a whole other issue, finding what song to use for that.
Someone I just watched, I was trying to look up there was a Netflix special, it just came out, and she used I forgot the lady's name, but she used a DJ in her special. So she just did that. I thought that was different and interesting. But you do your own sound effects with like your voice too, right? You do like boxing now.
When she used the song, do you remember if it was it a song you were familiar with, or was it like
it was like a DJ, yeah, and he did sound effects throughout her set. So I thought that was interesting. Like I've seen some comics do that. You use a flashlight though. You brought a prop.
Yeah.
With that,
Yeah.
How did that? Do you still do that every time, or just
every time? If it's but real quick though, back with the DJ, her using music, because I was curious. Here's something I never even thought of until I did my first TV appearance. they were like, yeah, you can't use these songs because we have to
Oh,
pay for
because
those
they weren't
rights.
copyright. Got it. Yeah.
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 So
I think it was
I,
more. I don't know if it was songs because I've run into the same thing with. I've had to do royalty free music. With my new specials. Thank God I didn't. Yeah. So I I have that right now with
yeah,
Comic Dynamics where to
nice.
upload my specials. Yeah. 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 But no, she did like sound effects. So that's so cool. So it just started where you were asking the crowd basically for, and then like what I'm so amazed by your wit is so quick because like I feel like I don't know how you do it. Like people just throw out random, but they'll say like refrigerator, just these like random words, and
Yeah.
you're just so quick with how you put it together. How do you do that so fast? Like, do you just have go-tos that you've used for so long?
I
And
think I have some go-tos like refrigerator. Like if they said refrigerator, I'd be like full of beer, or like big, white, and working.
yeah, like see, you
You know,
just
yeah,
all these like
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think what you do is so unique, and I've just always loved it. And yeah, so I love all the clips that you upload with that and stuff. So
Thank you.
do you? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you? How? I guess. Is there any? Have you gotten in trouble lately with anything you've said that's been too edgy or?
I usually try not to, and even if the crowd yells out like something that's like Twin Towers or 9/11, or they try
They
to like,
will
yeah,
throw
yeah,
you off.
right, yeah. I sometimes will say I'll be like if it's really I'll usually go like you're on timeout or something, or we'll come back to you, or and then I'll usually make fun of the person or whatever. But sometimes I'll play along with it depending on what they say. Like the other day, I knew this was going to happen because especially when it's in LA and people are thinking about like the wildfires, and then this guy yelled out wildfires, and I think I said spreading easily and quick to put out, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so much you could use with. That's hilarious how you can turn it into something funny. That how you're able to do that, and I don't know. I just think that's a unique something in your mind. I mean, I feel like that's hard to do. Like, not everyone can do that, but you find a way to make it funny and like sexual in like a funny way. Like,
Yeah, and it's crazy because I'm married. My wife and I, we've been married for 27 years, and it's and sometimes and I gotta. I found that if I usually like let the crowd get to know me because if they don't know, I just don't want them to think I'm some like this
oh,
is
got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
who is this guy up here,
Especially now. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah, like just some jerk up there, like.
So
But
you
people usually uh
warm them up
they
before
know
you
I'm being
go edgy.
playful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like
Okay.
edgy but playful, and
Yeah.
and even I'll tell you, and the key to it, Jennifer, is I I I I try never to be vulgar, like what I consider vulgar. So I just try to make it playful. Now I'm sure there's a couple that have crossed the line, but I generally try to make it like funny, but like
Yeah.
not gross.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's also whoever's perspective, but I try not, you know.
Yeah, no, I wrote like a fire joke and like I got reamed for it. Like my comic it was like, read the room. I'm like, bro, you don't even live here. I'm like, you're not even
But
in the fire. Like, but
also you
yeah.
got to remember comedy is what, it's like that tension that comedians can release. So it's like, I mean, if it's something that it's okay, I think, a little bit to
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
yeah.
edgy is kind of coming back. I'm trying to write edgier because it's fun to write edgy. I mean, clean gets boring. I do clean too. That can get kind of boring after a while. Um,
Right. And also I
yeah,
feel like nowadays with like the platforms loosening up and letting, so I mean, because sometimes we feel like we have these overlords, like, like, oh, I gotta keep it clean. And it
yeah,
used to be for like older comics, you know, it's like, I want to get on the Tonight Show or I want to get on this show. So I gotta keep, and then
yeah.
you realize like if you look at some of the most successful comedians touring right now, that most of them aren't working by these imaginary rules, right?
Right, 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 right. Actually, on that note, I do have a clean set. I've been trying to get on late night, but I've noticed it's even getting edgier too, like some of the stuff they're allowing. So it's kind of
What
interesting
are they
how it
allowing?
how it
Yeah,
changes how the content.
I don't
Yeah.
watch too much late night, but what are they allowing that surprised you? Do you remember?
Well, I remember they told me don't talk about death or murder, but someone literally had a set and it was about death and murder. So I was like, okay. Like, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it just
Okay.
depends kind of what you can get away with. It's always like a gray area, but Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. So you have
Oh,
a dry
oh,
comedy dry bar set coming out, or what do you, is that the next thing I think?
yeah, I'll talk to you about dry bar. But before we get into that, I want to ask you a question. Like, do you like, okay, so it's funny because I literally before we did this, I went on Instagram and did an Instagram live with a friend, and we
Okay.
were talking about comedy and when you do really well, and I go, oh, that joke killed. And as soon as
Yeah.
I said killed, in my mind, I'm like, ooh, probably shouldn't have said the word killed.
Oh no, you're like censoring. Doesn't that suck where we
Yes.
start to like censor? I hate that. I want to get away from that because I feel like it kills my creative
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to censor myself too much
Do
anymore. So
people, do younger people and newer comics like do you find them still saying kill or do they use different
oh
words?
no, people still say kill. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
That's fine. I think as long as we don't say the N word being white, I think we're fine. Literally, I don't
Right.
know. I
Right.
don't know if there's
Yeah.
anything. I mean, I don't know. I think someone sometimes people pick apart some edgy jokes, all right. But
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I just do it anyway. You know what I mean? It's like, what can you do? But
Yeah. Sometimes I try to change it to crush, like you crushed, or like
oh,
I don't
yeah,
know.
no, I think that's fine. No, I know what you mean. Like yeah, how words are being I
Yeah.
censored and stuff like that. I mean, I get where it does make sense.
Right.
Like master bedroom should be primary bedroom. Like I get the connotation of the word, like certain things like that. Like I understand, but yeah, I think people, I don't know. I think a lot of people want to be comics or they want to be famous and they just get jealous of like, I think
Yeah.
it's really all there, that comes down to like a lot of people online try to ride your coattails and they just want attention themselves. So that's just
Right.
what I think it is. So that's happened to me. But yeah, I wouldn't worry. I think you're pretty clean, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I did do a dry bar. I did it. We filmed it and it's out there, and it was a little bit of it was a little tiny bit of a challenge, but wasn't too hard because I'd already been sort of writing material like that like years prior.
Okay.
So it
And they
wasn't
like
like,
clean. They want clean mostly,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Like, but and they also get very particular about certain words. Like I have a bit where I go, all the sexy ladies, let me hear you say, So it's silly because I'm like, and they're like, can you not say sexy? Can you? And I said,
Serious? They didn't
yeah.
want you to say that?
I
Wow.
had to
Okay.
say pretty lady, all the pretty ladies, let me, and just
Wow. That's interesting.
and there was another thing that I said. What was it? It was oh, I think I talked about gaining weight and I referred to it as man boobs.
Uh-huh. They didn't like that either. Oh my God.
Right. So I changed it. I had to run it if I could change it to man biscuits. And then
Yeah.
she goes, that almost sounds dirtier. Like my man biscuits. But
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense. To me, I think of something else when you say that. But
yeah. So it's
yeah.
that was a little. I mean, it was pretty easy. Like certain bits were like here's another thing I was surprised about doing it. There's a bit that I do about getting lost in a corn maze and being with the family and like very wholesome pumpkin patch. You take the to the corn maze and it kills. It's clean. There's a lot of puns, a lot of wordplay about corn, and it kills like at the comedy store or anywhere like dirty room. Like I could follow somebody being the dirtiest comedian, and I go up there with the squeaky clean little corny bit, and it would kill. And I thought to myself, man, this is really going to kill when I do the dry bar special in Utah. And I felt like it didn't do that good. Like it did good, but
Huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like, this is weird. Like it was
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, that's interesting. Different type of crowd for sure. Yeah.
That was an eye opener. Like you might think, like I'm going to do the squeaky clean joke about sandwiches or something that,
Yeah.
and it might not do as well as you. I don't know. It's
Also, I feel like tapings are kind of strange sometimes with the audience. Like it's a different vibe for sure when you're being
it
filmed,
really is. It
right?
is.
I don't know what that is, but it's just different.
It was different even in my mind because I was, maybe I put a little too much pressure on it. We got to do two tapings, the early show and the late show, and everything worked better the late show. And I think it's because there was less people on the late show in the audience, but they were way more loose and like ready to laugh. Like the first crowd was like when I go, all the pretty ladies. I remember this lady going, "I'm not doing it," and it was like, man, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah. Do
you
you
know.
focus on those people or do you ignore them? Or like are you one to like call those people out? or
No, I don't call them out anymore. I used
yeah, I
to.
don't either. I don't. I don't
Right?
get. Yeah, because I feel like that's just right.
Yeah.
It's like adding. It's like bringing in more negativity. That's kind of how I see it. I try to
That's,
focus on the people, unless they're really being, and they're interrupting or they're being, if they're too drunk or something like that. That's different. But I tend to like ignore. There's always like one or two for whatever reason, right? They're just not
yeah.
laugh. But yeah, so I don't.
Yeah. I try to focus on the people having a good time
Yeah, me too.
and,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fake it till you make it. Like I'll pretend that people are loving me over here, even though they're not,
I
even
feel
though
like
they're,
yeah, they react in a more positive way, basically, is how I say. I mean, it just depends, but that's what I tend to do. Like they'll so you do so yeah, you do how long do you do the improv like crowd work sets? Do you do that towards the end, you said, or like the
yeah,
middle?
usually it depends. Most of the time it's towards the end, but like last night I did it in a little bit closer to the middle, or maybe even closer to the, like the front, not right off the bat, but like more in the
Yeah.
middle because it was cool and I knew that they'd play along with it and I go, okay, we'll get back to this later. Then I just did some other stuff and
Yeah.
then I did it towards the end. I think I did it towards the end again. I know I did it again and then yeah, so I did it twice. And then sometimes I'll do it if, like the other night I was at the Laugh Factory and I was filming, so I was like, you know what, let me do about 5 or 6 minutes of material and then jump into that so I can maybe grab some good ones and for the
Yeah.
internet and then
Yeah,
go
yeah,
back into my set, because
yeah.
sometimes yeah,
Have you filmed like a special of these? Have you thought about doing just like crowd work bits?
ooh, that'd
At
be
why
cool.
don't you do that? I feel like you should do that. Yeah.
I've done collaborations and on my YouTube channel, I've put like
Yeah.
10 minutes of them back to back, like different
Yeah.
best ofs or like I've done a thing on my YouTube channel. It's been pretty fun to do is I'll go, I like my women with, like only the letter G or the letter D or the letter F or the letter L. And it's kind of,
So specific. Oh wow. Yeah.
yeah. And then, what happens is and I'll also sprinkle in a couple others that weren't those letters, but no one complains because they're hopefully laughing and,
Right.
and if anything, they'll be like, that wasn't all the letter P. Then it just helps the algorithm.
Oh
Right?
yeah. Nice. Okay.
Engagement.
Right. That's different. Yeah. Like I like crowd work. I think I'm gonna do some crowd work in my next special, but I don't want to do all. I want to mix it up. Like I like telling
Yeah.
jokes and then doing some crowd work in there.
Yeah. Crowd
Uh,
work is interesting. Like you learn little things on how to phrase questions and
mm,
things, don't you? Like I've learned when, my son's 17 now, but when he was, earlier, like less than 5, and I wanted to do jokes and I wanted to bond with other parents in the audience.
mm.
I learned if I go, do we have any parents here? Like they didn't really react. Do we have
Oh,
anybody?
okay. That's like how you ask the question. Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
it didn't really work. Didn't get much of a reaction. However, if I phrased it like this is always get a reaction. How many proud parents do we have? I don't know.
Oh, proud
Just adding the
parent.
word
Oh,
proud parents, they're like,
wow.
oh yeah,
Wow.
proud.
Interesting. These little tricks. Okay. I'll have to think about that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like, comics we only ask like, what do you do for a living? Are you guys together? I feel
Yeah.
I I feel like we need to expand upon. I mean, I see some other comics. I thought it was really funny. Someone's asking how much money people make. They're really like, I was like, oh, that's different. But
Yeah.
yeah,
How was the
like
crowd? Was the crowd into that question or they didn't like it?
well, it was in New York City, and I think he got away with it. But I thought, okay, well, that's really specific, and but yeah,
I have a friend that has a knack for that, man. He knows for asking people how much money they make. He just does. I go, dude, you should do a reality show on that or something. Because he just is,
that is interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's got a great, he's just good at it. He's like 60s from Queens, New York. And he's like, let me ask you something. And like, he sometimes connects with them and he can find out how much money people make, usually in under a minute. I go, dude, you're good at that. Like I go, watch this. Like we saw a guy that was shutting the event down. He was a DJ and he was moving his equipment to his van. And he goes, oh, I see. He goes, I used to be a DJ. And then he goes, when I was doing it, like, let me ask you something. When I was doing it, we'd make, and then he threw out a number.
Well, I think on that note, I mean, comics are being more kind of open about, I'm asking my comedy friends, what'd you get on this deal? What are you making? So I know, like, so I don't get screwed. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to figure out myself, like being
And
a
it
new
helps
leader.
them also because if everyone's doing it for $1,000 and you're like, yeah, I'll do it for 300, they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like then then the promoter's going to be like, oh, let me just get these $200-$300 comedians in.
It's going to screw us all. We need a union or something, right? Yeah, I know.
Or something where you're like you said, the buddy system where it's
yeah, starting to do that. So you still tour on that? You still headline? Yeah. Nice, cool. And so let's see what else. I'm trying to think. Any questions you want to ask me?
Yeah. So this is cool. This is your podcast, and
yeah, it's my podcast. I learn a lot. I bring on great. I've had some great guests. I always learn when I bring guests on my podcast, and I feel like it's a good creative powwow. Really,
It really is, right? It's like it's good to you find out more about other comedians and comedy and the people. And sometimes, whenever I do something, I'll write because you never know what's going to come out. Like I'll either write it down as I'm talking, or I'll go back and listen, and I'm like, oh, I forgot all about that story. That was great. I should implement that more.
Yeah. So let's see. So you have the flash. How did you come up with Darren Carter, the party starter? You're also one of the only comics with like a tag, like a rhyming tag. Yeah. Is that something you did early on, or?
That was like a character I would do in the beginning. Okay. I would go on stage. I'd be like, hi, I would do this fake character. It was really, okay. I didn't realize at the time, but it was kind of hacky. Like a lot of people have done that, but I didn't know where you go up as one character, then you go, I'm just kidding. This is who I really am. It was like that kind of thing. And I go, hi, I'm Darren Carter, the party starter. Then I would do this long, the little rhyme thing. And then, but I remember,
because I think what's so funny with you do come off very wholesome and very like a good guy, kind of clean, nerdy image. And so that when you do that, like it works. Like it's, it's like funny.
Thank you. I remember at the time, one of the biggest comics was Margaret Cho. She had just
I love Margaret.
Right? Yeah. And this is back when she had her sitcom. And I remember I didn't know she knew who I was. And when she saw me, she goes, hi, Darren Carter, the party starter. And I was like, wow, people remember my name. Like that's an important thing, right? Like damn. Like so I kind of just I don't know, it works. And and I often wonder, like I'm sure there's some people that like if I saw that, I'd be like, who is this guy? Like, because I remember I was at a casino once and there was a guy, it was a keyboard player, and it said, Artie, the one-man party. And I was like, I wonder if this, but who cares though? At this point, I don't care. It's a silly name and it helps people remember. And it's awesome.
You're definitely, I feel like you would be a good warm-up. You're like a good warm-up guy, or to go, because you do really get the crowd. You're like party starter, and people are like, yeah. If I ever book a show, you should go up. Yeah, like to get.
I love it. I've done it, and it's super fun. I have done that. But yeah, the flashlight, how'd the flashlight come out? I think people were like, you should add a flashlight. And then one time I did a show, it was a fundraiser. It was for the police. And I remember this cop, he goes, here, use my flashlight. And it was like a little flashlight, like this big. And I was like, oh, cool. And he goes, yeah, it clips right in your pocket. And I was able to go.
That's how, wow, neat.
And I was like, I got to get one of these. And so I remember that day I was like, I think he goes, I'm going to the armory right now. He had to get like some supplies and stuff. And so I gave him the money. He bought me the flashlight. And then I remember I bought my next flashlight to that same cop. And then eventually I was like, oh, I think I can get these myself on Amazon. So, but yeah, it was cool.
That's neat. I like hearing origin stories, how things originated. It's so cool. All right. Well, thanks for speaking with me today on my podcast. It was good to see you. Hopefully I'll see you around campus soon. We'll do a show together.
Yeah. Keep crushing it. And I'll talk to you later. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, I think